Good afternoon. We are live, Mark Gassert. Elevate your profits. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing tremendous, man. It's another magnificent Monday. It's a little cooler. Survived the weekend. Did the Orthodox Easter thing. I was at a household full of people, and uh, some were, some weren't. And you know what I say? So what? We all had a good time, and actually stayed longer than I wanted to, but got out of there about 7:15 yet last night, and it was a good time.
Well, I know something about it. When I grew up with some Greek families, and if you have enough ouzo around, uh, there's the party starts then. So
Yeah, there were some that were partaking of shots of that licorice flavored alcohol.
yeah,
I was not one of them. I stayed with wine, kept it simple, basic, and it all worked out fine. So, the older you get, Tom, you just got to kind of watch what you do, the intake goes into your body. I mean, these people were half my age and your age as well. So, there's no way I could do what they were doing. I was like, have at it. But I'm sure some are kind of feeling it this morning.
Mark, we're going to go ahead and roll it out, and then we'll come back and introduce our guest.
You got it.
We are back. Elevate your profits. So, Mark, I'm just going to turn this over to you if you want to share with the audience our purpose with Elevate Your Profits, and then
Okay.
we'll introduce our guest.
Absolutely. Elevate your profits. And tonight, this is applicable. It is about taking oneself and, bettering yourself financially. There are people that are out there in the real world, as I like to kiddingly say, but it's truthful. They're out there doing it, making it happen. And like tonight's guest, and they share a lot of inside, I won't call them secrets, but things that you and I don't deal with every day. They're experts. And Elevate Your Profits also, pertains to finances. It could either be applicable to a cause or something that you're very passionate about. I've often said it. We've had people that have been authored on this platform, and we're grateful to have them. They share their knowledge. It could go all the way from healthcare, finance, hobbies, you name it. And it's really kind of neat to have the people on here. I learned, eons, like last week with Ernest, what you can do, virtually in terms of the internet and technology wise. There's just so many things out there to learn, Tom. And you can't read enough books or watch enough free things on YouTube, whatever it is you want to try and do. We're getting bombarded. And, the big craze is AI. Maybe we can get somebody on here in the next couple of weeks that's AI savvy as well.
That would be cool because a lot of things are moving that direction. That'll make life simple, but it's also some downsides as well. So
Yes.
So with that all said, yeah, again, Elevate Your Profits. We created this program. How long have we been doing this now, Mark? This is
Is it 2 years, or are we a little over 2? Or
going on 3, I think, my friend.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's been an exciting journey. We've had blessings to interview some very significant people in the business world to share their wisdom, their secret sauce, I call it, what it takes to win in business. Everything from the mindset to the bank account and everything in between. What does it take to be successful
Right.
in business? And elevate your profits, not just about business, it's also about your personal finances as well. And tonight's guest, I saw his interview with another Grow Live Academy family member. It would introduce our guest today, Chris Wesson. So with that all said, I'm going to bring Chris in. You ready, sir?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Hey, look at it. He's back.
How's it going, guys?
Hey.
We're doing great. Doing great. Hey, thanks for being here tonight. What I like to always just do is start our meeting out to get some. What are you grateful for today, Chris? And then we'll go to Mark and then myself.
Man, well, it's kind of a lot not to be grateful for. I mean, I look outside. I'm in Arizona, so the sun's still out. So sun's shining. I got breath in my lungs. I got roof over my head. So, I mean, basic things, really. I'm just kind of grateful to be here and then be with you guys.
Thank you. Mark, what are you grateful for today?
Man, I am grateful for, my family after, yesterday, like I said, was Orthodox Easter. Some people are no longer with us, and, it gets kind of scary year after year. So I am very grateful. I have my health. I'm able to do other things. And, we talked last week and 2 weeks ago about gig economy and doing different things. And so, I'm grateful that I can do those different things. And the older you get, you appreciate health. I mean, I would kill to be half my age, but that's not going to happen. So I got to deal with what I have, but take care of myself during that process. Just be aware of things, but very much so, I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm grateful for many reasons. There's infinite amount of things we can be grateful for, from the weather to the friends and families we have. But I'm grateful, and I would just want to say thank you, Chris, for serving. That's an important area of my life, being a veteran myself, and Mark as well. Is just want to acknowledge, thank you for your service. I'm grateful for that. It's those that have sacrificed in different ways that allow us to have the liberties and freedoms that we take for granted. I don't take any of them for granted. Matter of fact, tonight I'm joining the American Legion here in our community. So I'm going after our meeting to my first American Legion meeting. So get to see some and get to build new relationship with those that have served as well. So we got a real strong community here in Oconomowoc with the Legion. So I'm excited about participating there. So I'm grateful for that as well.
Tom's a fellow member now. I can call you a fellow member. I'm a Legion member. So
yeah.
All right.
Very nice.
Well, Chris, we always like to start out a little bit about the backstory. Tell us a little bit about your backstory to your why, your story to what you're doing today. So, and we'll jump in specifically in and around what you do in the area of working with veterans in the area of mortgages and that underutilized benefit that veterans have, because we did talk about that earlier. So with that all said, go ahead and jump in.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So as you said, I do work in mortgages. I'm a mortgage loan originator. So I, do retail residential mortgage loans. And I grew up in Alabama, kind of a small little town in North Alabama. So Roll Tide, I'll always root for the Crimson Tide. And then, being in a small town growing up, I wanted to get out and see the world, and not a ton of opportunity to do that unless, you join the military. So I decided to join the Marines right out of high school. 10 days after I graduated boot camp, 10 days after I graduated high school, I shipped off to boot camp. So then did 4 years in the Marine Corps. I did 3 deployments overseas to Iraq while I was in. And then on my last deployment, I met a bunch of civilian contractors that were kind of telling us, hey, get out and come do this, come to the civilian side, because the money was a lot better. So I wound up doing that for, I did a year, came home for a couple of years, then went back for another 3.5 years. And then finally, pretty much my back just gave out. I ruptured a disc in my L5S1. So I kind of had to hang it up and come home, and finished up my degree after I got back. And then, I got into the mortgage business. It wasn't really planned. I just met my now branch manager at a birthday party, and we started talking about it. And he was kind of telling me about, everything that the mortgage business entails, and it seemed like it'd be a kind of a good fit. And so now I've been in it for a little over 5 years. And I think the biggest why I do what I do now is because I've heard the horror stories. I've talked to other veterans that, Mark, we were just talking about it earlier, how rough your first VA loan was, which was years ago. It's gotten better since, but you hear the horror stories of lenders that don't know what they're doing when it comes to VA, realtors that don't want to accept VA offers because they think it's a hard loan. People that are literally they're very, very well qualified veterans, and they present an offer to a listing agent to buy a home, and that listing agent doesn't want to work with a veteran. So, they'll kind of advise their sellers not to accept a VA offer. And I also was that veteran. So when I was contracting overseas in 2012, I wanted to buy my first home, and it was a new build, but I was using the builder's lender, and they told me, well, since you work overseas, you can't use your VA loan. Well, I now know, since I've been in this business, that's absolutely not true. You certainly can. But at the time, I was that veteran that wasn't in this business. I didn't know any better. So I said, okay. So then, they put me in an FHA down payment assistance loan. And, I didn't know. I did not know any better. So really my why is for that, to educate the veteran community, to educate realtors and, even other lenders on just what a great benefit it is for the veteran. Because it is, it's very underutilized. And there's numbers that show that less than 25% of veterans have actually even used their VA home loan. So, it's wild to think that there's so many veterans out there that are, either not being served or not being served at the highest level. So that's why I love what I do and why I do what I do.
With that all said, only about 25% of veterans are using that part of their benefit package that they earned in mortgages. What do you think the number one reason that they don't investigate it?
I think it's hard to nail down one thing. I would say there's maybe a couple things. I think it's maybe lack of education. And then both on the veteran part and the lender part. I've known lenders that have tried to steer a veteran away from using their VA home loan because they don't really know how to do it. So let's just do an FHA down payment assistance loan, because the lender doesn't know how to do VA. They don't want to work with VA. So instead of learning it and then practicing it, they just kind of, they kind of, I don't know, just don't really encourage veterans to use it.
And I would, coming from that industry or financial services, many times people will steer them to their product because they pay them more as well. So sometimes there's a personal incentive not to direct them someplace else because they won't make as much money. And I don't know if that's the case today, but that's probably part of the formula as well.
Yeah, and I've heard lenders tell veterans too that they're going to have a really hard time getting their offer accepted if they go VA. So let's just go conventional, and we'll get, and it's crazy to me. It's wild. And again, I'm kind of really passionate about this. So, I think it's the best loan product out there by far. I think it's way better than conventional. It's just on us now to educate the real estate professionals that, hey, this is a phenomenal loan. So I try to do as many education classes as I can with realtors to show them how great it is, and then just open the floor for questions and anything that they think they've heard that might be true or not true. Feel free to ask away, because it's on us, I think, for those that are kind of passionate about it, to then educate everyone. So when that VA offer comes in, they're like, oh yeah, definitely, let's take this offer.
I think one of the most significant benefits, and tell me if I'm got this right or wrong, is the fact that a veteran loan, you don't need any down to get started. You're just responsible for closing costs, whatever they come out to be, correct?
Correct. Yep. So no down payment and no mortgage insurance, which is huge, because mortgage insurance on conventional FHA loan, you could be paying anywhere from $175 to $250 extra a month in mortgage insurance, which again affects what you qualify for, and then affects your monthly payment. So if you can get away with, no mortgage insurance, I mean, that's huge when it comes to your monthly mortgage payment.
Yeah, it's a huge benefit not having to wait years to save enough money for a down payment. It's hard enough for families today to have, the average family has maybe $500-600 of discretionary income if they manage their money well. So it takes a number of years to be able to come with a 20% down payment, and depending what market, that is a significant amount of money. here they can get into that same home without any money out of pocket, other than their cost of closing, et cetera.
Mhm.
So that's a huge benefit in itself. And having real estate's the number one wealth building asset you can have still to America today. So if we can help those veterans in this marketplace better understand the benefit, we all win. Helping improve individual wealth, elevate your profits. So that's what I'm about. So
Absolutely. And kind of what you and I talked about earlier is you can use the VA loan to help create wealth. So you can use your VA loan to buy a home. It has to be your primary residence. But let's say you live in that home for a year and now you want to turn it into a rental property. You can absolutely do that. And now you bought your first home, your VA using your VA loan with no money down, no mortgage insurance. And now you can turn that into an investment property to where it's now an income generating property. And then depending on where you're at and the loan amount size, you could possibly go buy your next primary residence using your remaining entitlement on another VA loan to where now you have two VA loans at the same time. So you can use it multiple times, and you can use it, you can use it on duplexes, fourplexes, to where now you're living in one unit, but you're renting out the other three. So again, you're generating income while still using your VA home loan.
that's a tremendous benefit, because I was under the assumption that you could only have one VA at a time. So that's a big boost for those individuals that recognize that if they could put it all together, get their second property and
Right.
so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge we got a lot of
Yeah, we've got people firing away, so I was going to wait for you to Eric and Kimberly and Zena and everybody's saying hello. So hey, while Tom's pulling up some things, I'm going to ask you something here, Chris. So what is that like? Put yourself back, like you went in right after high school. Some of us went in like idiots after college, maybe. I won't mention that guy's name, but I'm just saying, now they get out and, you get those packets and you're inundated with the benefits and all that. And how do you seek out veterans and, that if they express an interest to you, or do you actually have a listing of people that, if they're short time, they're looking to get out, and start talking to them, before they get out to educate them, put them through a process? Since you mentioned Alabama, everything has a process. So, Saban talks about this relentlessly, but I'm just saying, how do you help them so when they're out, they're well equipped to talk to a realtor, in an educated manner, where they're not like steered away, like Tom was saying, to another product?
Right. And so I'm completely 100% referral based. So,
Okay.
I don't pay for leads or anything like that. It's hard to get on base and teach classes on base because the DoD can't be seen as endorsing one company over another. And when you're
Right.
getting out of the military, you go through these transition classes
Sure.
where they tell you about your benefits that you have coming up. But most of the time you're not paying attention because you're like, oh, I'm out of here tomorrow and I'm done. I'm starting a new life. And it's kind of like you're just checking the boxes so you
Yep.
can go get
Yep.
the commander's signature and be done. And so for me, I've been lucky enough to work with some active duty, military members. And so it's then just kind of, well, who do you know next that then's going to get out or
Okay.
staying in, but looking at buying a home? And then I do a lot of via education classes, whether that's, one-on-one with a potential home buyer or, just out in the community. I'm a member of the Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals. So I do educational events with them. I put on my own. I do, and every realtor I meet, I'm like, hey, let me come teach a class for your brokerage. I'll pay for lunch. I'll pay for breakfast, whatever you guys want. Let me just come give you the most up-to-date,
That's
information.
nice. I wish I would have had that. No, seriously, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah. And then just kind of, things like these, right? So you guys will now know that, hey, I just met this veteran. They're thinking of buying a home. Let me put them in touch with Chris because, he's not going to blow smoke and he knows what he's talking about. So it's really that's it. Just kind of
Gotcha.
permeating through the community and people I know and resources like you guys. And so, yeah, that's my biggest thing.
Yeah, so we're going to put up your information. Make sure anybody watching will know how to get a hold of you. We've got your email there, correct?
Yes, that is the one.
And this is Benchmark's website as well. So it gives you. I went there earlier today. It's a pretty comprehensive website with calculators and everything else you would need. But you can find Chris through that website as well. Just search him. Searching for loan originators, he'll pop up, so you can get your direct information right through the website as well. So,
yeah. Hey, I like your Facebook page there or your website. You know, with Benchmark, you got your military garb on there. So, you know, you look like a killer there. I'm teasing you, but Tom, I don't know if you saw this. Did you see Zena's comment about VA rep, the last one? Could you share that? I think that's pretty interesting. It's the latest comment that came in. She says that there you go. You got it. I think that's fantastic that they're doing that.
Yeah, and Zena and I have worked quite a bit together with the VA rep up in Prescott, Arizona, which is an hour north of Phoenix. And she just came with me to every year. Benchmark does a massive fundraiser for the Brain Treatment Foundation, which helps veterans with TBI and CTE, and then PTSD related issues because of brain injuries. And so she came out with experience a little bit of kind of our heart for veterans. And I mean, like, this thing is company wide. So yeah, I am my own originator within the company, but the company is huge on VA helping veterans, anything we can really do. So.
Right.
Yeah, Zena, thanks for sharing that. This is how I found Chris. It was Zena did your interview, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. I said, people need to know what you were sharing, is because like anything else, there's a lot of false information out there. And we want to make sure that veterans that have paid the price and sacrificed beyond what we comprehend, that they're aware of their full package of benefits. So I appreciate what Zena is doing to support you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. She's great.
Yeah. So what would be, say I come to you as a veteran, what do I need as a veteran to start that process?
It's pretty simple. I always say the golden ticket is your certificate of eligibility. That's the first thing, first and foremost. And we don't even need an application to pull that. As long as I have your name, social, and date of birth, we can go on the VA's website, pull your certificate of eligibility. If it doesn't come back automatically, which a lot of, Desert Storm and younger guys, so 91 to now, they're kind of in the system already, but Korea veterans, Vietnam veterans, World War II, we might need the actual DD-214 to give the VA for them to, pull the records. But yeah, that's literally it. Then we look at, okay, are you eligible to use a VA loan? And then, what's your entitlement? Have you ever had a VA loan? Do you currently have a VA loan? And then the cool thing is if you have full entitlement on a VA loan, there's no loan limit. So you're eligible. If you make enough money to where you can afford a payment on a $3 million home, you can buy a $3 million home with no money down. So it's pretty awesome.
Wow. That's a big deal. That is a huge deal.
It's huge.
If you're self-employed, because we talked to a lot of people that are out there that create their own economy in business themselves, what does that look like for somebody that is in business for themselves, can qualify? What do they need to demonstrate to qualify for a VA loan, being self-employed?
Yeah, so it's fairly simple as far as documentation and stuff that we need. As long as you've been self-employed for at least 2 years, you're good to go. And then we just need your personal business or your personal tax returns and your business tax returns for the past 2 years. And then that's really it. We do our own income calculation. So you don't have to just send us the tax returns. We'll get all that sorted out and, let you know what the qualifying income is. And that's pretty much it.
We were talking before we came on live. Interest rate. What determines the interest rate? Credit score. What are the things that would dictate what a person would qualify for on their interest rate? We've come out of an environment for the last several years of extremely low rates that I don't believe we'll see again. But what determines that person's qualifying interest rate? What are the things that they should be working on to make sure they can get the best rate possible?
Yeah, so there's, like we spoke about earlier, there's 30 different things that go into an interest rate. So everybody's going to be a little bit different. It's not just kind of a one size fits all anymore, but some of the things that go in are credit score. Are you a 640? Are you a 740? Are you an 800? The loan to value. So how much you put down. So if you're putting down, 5% on a conventional as opposed to 20%, VA is, the interest rates are typically a little bit better than conventional because rates are based on risk, and there's less risk with a VA loan because you have that VA loan guarantee. And it's wild. I mean, it literally goes down to all the way to subject property address. So, typically we don't lock loans until we have a property. That's when, we get the contract. That's when we lock. And it's kind of wild. You think that the property address has something to do with the interest rate, but that's actually one of the factors. And then is it going to be a primary home or is it going to be an investment property? Obviously, investment properties are more risky than primaries. So rates are a little bit higher on investment than they are on a primary home. So yeah, like I said, there's 30 different things that go into an interest rate. So, when you see online, I always say, look, there's two rates. There's a quoted rate and there's your actual rate. I can quote you any rate that I want to, even if rates are at 6.5%, I can tell you, hey, you can do a 5.5%. Now you're going to pay a lot of money to get a 5.5%. So it makes absolutely no sense as to why you would do that. But a lot of kind of like the online lenders advertise these super low rates, but then they're hiding points in there that you have to pay to get that super low rate. So yeah, it's, And again, like I said, VA is always a little bit better than conventional as far as interest rates go, which is another kind of bonus to the VA loan.
Okay. Yes, because buying your first real estate is in itself is you're making a huge commitment and responsibility to that. Not only just what you got to pay out every month, but all the other costs that are associated with owning property, the maintenance, and all the things that go along with ownership.
Right.
When I was in the,
I was just saying, and again, you can refi. We're a little bit higher than we were a couple of years ago, but rates come down, you can refi. You're not stuck with that rate forever.
Yeah, can you pull equity out on a refi with a VA?
Absolutely. Unless you're in Texas. Texas does not allow for cash out VA refinances.
That's interesting.
It's a weird Texas thing. I don't know why they do it. Maybe hopefully, I know people are working on it. Hopefully it'll change at some point. Maybe we just need to get Xeno on that, go lobby Congress and say, hey, but I think it's just specifically Texas rule.
Okay. Great information you're sharing here, Chris. What would your number one recommendation to find a lender? What are the things that you would recommend they should look for before they pick a lender, whether it be a conventional or whether it be a VA supported lender? What would somebody should be looking at a company and or the individual that's originating the loan?
Well, kind of the biggest thing is, obviously the best referral is, someone that so obviously the greatest referral is word of mouth. So, I might talk to somebody that had recently done a loan and see how it went. But, really it's kind of any referrals I get, we try to actually do the best that we can to take care of them, and make sure it's a very smooth transaction because again, the lending side reflects on the realtor side and vice versa. So if I don't do my job as a lender, it's going to make the realtor look bad. It's going to make the whole transaction just, not fun for everybody. So, I don't know, a lot of people say like, yeah, get out there and shop rates, but that's not necessarily always your best advice because you could get a lower rate, but it might wind up costing you more in the long run if you're paying a ton of money to get a lower rate. So it's not, I don't really always say recommend, go find the lowest rate. I would just, Google, do your research. obviously with Benchmark, we're nationwide. I'm also in like 10 different states, so I can lend in, a lot of places, and I can always get licensed for more if I need to. But yeah, I mean, just talking to folks that, that are in real estate or, lending, and see who they kind of recommend.
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
Chris, can I just jump in here? I do have to ask you, have you ever worked with any wounded warriors, or do you have any stories that you could share that maybe it didn't start out on the right foot for whatever reason, but, it developed into something very positive, someone trying to get a loan, or, do you have anything you could share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's now, a good friend of mine. But I did a class for a group of agents here in Phoenix. Unfortunately, it was kind of during COVID, so it was over Zoom.
Gotcha.
We couldn't do it in person, but, I did a whole VA class and kind of outlined what makes VA different as opposed to conventional and the benefits of the VA loan. And the managing broker of that company, so she manages over 2,000 agents, reached out to me after the class personally and asked if we could help on a VA transaction. So the seller was a veteran and the buyer was a veteran, and the buyer was trying to use his VA loan to buy this home.
Sure.
Well, the lender he was working with, they were a couple weeks from closing, was all of a sudden saying now, hey, look, I don't think we can get this loan done. And there was a late mortgage payment, within the last 12 months. And so she calls me and she's like, hey, is there anything that you can do? I'm like, yeah, let me take a look at it. So the veteran went on, applied, gave us all his information, everything. I mean, we had it in a couple of hours. And kind of the cool thing with, where I'm at with Benchmark is we have a servicing portfolio specifically for VA loans. So if we got a veteran in a pinch, we will say, look, we'll fund that loan, we'll close it just so that veteran can get that home. We'll figure out later what, if we're going to sell it or whatever. But yeah, we stepped in and looked at everything. We're like, absolutely, this is a good loan. There's no reason why we should not do this loan. And yeah, 2 weeks later, that veteran had keys in hand and closed on this killer horse property out here in Arizona. And, everybody was super, super excited because we were able to get it done just because, we are more familiar with the VA loan and what we can do and what we can't do than a lot of other lenders out there.
Very good. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So it's cool being able to have that, and then again, having our own servicing portfolio specifically for just VA loans is huge.
So typically in relationship to the process from start to finish, typically a conventional financing channel, how long does it take to get approval in that market? And how long does it typically take in a VA, especially if you're working with timelines? What's the typical timeline?
So yeah, usually when we write, when an agent writes a contract, it's roughly 30 days. However, we've pulled these numbers because I do classes on this very thing. And so the past 2 years, we've pulled the numbers of average days from when we get the contract to when we're clear to close to when it funds. And on average, VA loans close 3 days faster than conventional, like with us. And typically from the day we get the contract to the day that we close on VA is roughly 21 days, whereas conventional is about 24. So, and I think that's why it helps working with a VA lender that knows what they're doing. And again, we do conventional and everything as well, and we're very, very good at both. But, knowing the lender that you're working with, if you're using a VA loan, we can do those in, 18 to 21 days, no problem. Super easy.
Okay. If I was a veteran coming to you for a loan, or anybody coming to you for a loan, what's the number one thing that would kick a loan?
So we always run a report that runs kind of through the government system to make sure that you don't have any outstanding federal debt. So let's say you had an FHA loan in the past that then foreclosed on, that could be a denier. If you have any judgments against you or possible tax liens, those are kind of the big three, really. Most stuff we can work through, as for instance, when we pull credit, if you've got collections on your credit report, the VA doesn't really take those into account. So we're not really worried about collections. It's more anything legal that could possibly affect it. So if you've defaulted on a student loan, if you had a student loan through a government agency, and you defaulted on that, that's kind of where we can get into a little bit of trouble. But other than that, there's not a
So
lot.
those are the big kickers that, because there's always something in kick a loan. I know that for sure. So
Yeah. And that's what, I think kind of what we do that not all lenders do, that every lender should do, is we run those reports and we look at everything up front. So if a realtor refers us someone, whether it's a veteran or not, we're running everything and making sure, okay, yeah, they're good to go before we ever send that realtor like a pre-approval that, hey, okay, you're good. Take them out shopping, get them looking at homes. We've already done our due diligence, because I don't want it to blow up once they're already under contract and we're 2 weeks away from closing. So we try to, nip that in the bud beforehand so that we don't have those problems. But, I had a loan, not a loan, but I had a phone call after that same VA class where a lender was working with a veteran and they were going to be doing a VA loan. They didn't pull the certificate of eligibility up front. They didn't get the DD-214 up front. Well, then a week away from closing, they say, hey, we need to pull the certificate of eligibility. So they're just assuming that this veteran has eligibility to do a VA loan. And a week away from closing, they go to pull the certificate of eligibility. They can't get it. So they ask the veteran, hey, we need your DD-214. They don't have it. So now you have to go to the National Archives to get a copy of it. That takes a week to 10 days. You finally get that and come to find out that veteran was discharged out of boot camp for a pre-existing injury. So now they don't have eligibility. They can't even do a VA loan. So what happens is now you've got two realtors on both sides of the transaction that are just like, oh, the VA loan sucks. Well, no, it's the lender that screwed the pooch. And so, and that's what, kind of what we're up against in the VA space is lenders. It's in a way, it's a niche product. Like I said, less than 25% of veterans have used their VA loan. So it's kind of a niche product. The majority of loans are conventional. And when a lender screws up a VA loan, it has kind of farther reaching repercussions than you would, on say conventional.
Okay. Mark, anything else that you have specific around VA loans?
I think you're muted.
Mark, you're muted.
I'm always polite. I like to listen. So sorry. I said you shared a good story with us. Could you share a story that kind of went the wrong way? Maybe it started out okay, and like you touched on some topics there where a veteran, kind of did it to themselves and it didn't work out the way you wanted it to. I mean, there are stories out there like that. I understand.
Yeah. And we had one of those as well last year. So we have a veteran, that comes to us, wants to obviously buy a home. So we get her set up, pre-qualified. She's good to go. It's a couple of months in between when she first gets pre-qualified. And then, we kind of thought she was going to wait a bit longer. She kind of, was not communicative. And all of a sudden, boom, we get a contract. So we're like, okay, no worries. So we set it up and send her disclosures. And then we get a request out to her for updated pay stubs and bank statements. And come to find out, she was working 80 hours a week, for her 2-week period. And then we got a pay stub that had 66 hours on it. And then we got a pay stub that had 33 hours on it. So now it's like, okay, what's going on here? Are you not working? What's going on? And then we got, when we pre-qual someone, we make sure that they have the funds to cover their closing costs. Well, we get the most up-to-date bank statement and those funds are not there. So, okay, what's going on here? Where'd your money go? So she had given money to family, pulled it out of her bank account, gave it to the family. What's that?
I said, oh, wow. That's,
Yep. And so, and then obviously working less at work. And so it just, we were able to get it done and we, got the loan closed and we got the veteran in the house and everything worked out. But, there were kind of some pains along the way.
Sure.
We did have to push back the closing by 1 week because, when we got something, it was like, okay, now we need you to explain this. So we need something else to explain that, and it was just, now we had to get a gift. Whereas before we had the funds to close, now somebody has to gift you those funds so you can cover your closing costs. So it was just, it was just one thing. And that's what we, typically tell people once they're pre-approved or pre-qualified. It's like, okay, keep everything the same. Keep working don't go spend a lot of money, don't go open up new credit. Just keep everything just nice and normal, and after you close on your home, do whatever you want, open up 10 credit cards and go, whatever. But until we get to that point, let's just keep everything just right where it should be, right where it is now,
You were mentioning gifts, in conventional financing, there's gifting requirements, what that looks like, and veteran gifts. What's the difference if I have a gift coming to the table to cover cost? What are the difference between a conventional finance gift and a veteran's gift? What do you?
Yeah. So conventional FHA, it typically has to be, a family member or significant other. There's kind of rules around that. Whereas with VA, that gift can come from anybody. So, if your boss finds out that, you're buying your first home and you've been with them for 10 years and they just love you as an employee or the greatest thing ever, then you can get a gift from your boss for $5,000, $10,000, whatever. It just has to be gifted as like, hey, I don't expect return payment, but you can get $5,000 from the boss. You can get, $6,000 from your girlfriend. It doesn't, there's really, it's a lot more lax on VA, which is kind of cool.
A lot of creative ways to put the loan together.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, when I was in the industry, there was a lot of things going on because the interest rates were so high. A lot of creative things were being done that today would never fly. So I won't get into that. But so things have changed dramatically since 35 years ago to where we are today.
And if I could say something on that as well, talking about things changing, the VA is consistently and constantly working on making the VA loan better. And trying to make it to where everybody loves the VA, right? So they're working on the appraisal timelines, and if you're an appraiser and you accept the VA appraisal, you have to have it done. You've got 7 days, boom, from start to finish, or you're off the panel. So the VA is constantly working on making it better. So, things, and you get some of these agents who've been in the business for 20, 30 years, they're kind of thinking 20, 30 years ago, okay, the VA loan wasn't really good, so today it must still not be good. Whereas they're always updating guidelines and requirements and trying to make it as good a loan as it can be. So a lot of things have changed. And that's why I always say, if you're an agent, let me come do a class for you. Let me update you on all the new changes to VA and why it is better now than it used to be.
Guidelines. I know in conventional financing, they look at a condominium financing different than a single dwelling home or a townhouse. How does the VA look at those different types of property descriptions? How do they look at those in consideration, or they just take all the other factors? It's not important whether it's a single dwelling or a condo or whatever. Is anything they look at specifically in those areas?
Yeah, so there are different requirements depending on the property type. You're pretty much your easiest are single family homes and like townhomes. Condos have to be approved by the VA. So if you're wanting to buy in a condo, for instance, right now I'm in my condo that is VA approved. So I was able to make a VA, offer on these, and I got mine accepted. But the VA does do waivers on VA condos. So if the entire project is not approved and you've got a veteran that wants to buy one unit in there, you can, if the VA will not approve the entire community, they can approve that one unit so that veteran can buy that unit. And it's something that we as the lender can do. So if we have a veteran that wants to buy, we just need the proper paperwork from the HOA. We submit that to the VA, and the VA will say, yep, this whole complex is good to go. Or, okay, no, you need a waiver to get that one approved. Manufactured homes have certain requirements on them, kind of in northern Arizona and spots kind of outside of the more populated areas of Arizona. There's a lot of manufactured homes. We can absolutely do them single wide, double wide, triple wide. There's just a few more kind of requirements that we have as far as forms and things like that. Certain things like barn dominiums are kind of still new, and they're kind of in the works. But yeah, the majority of your property types are going to be eligible for VA financing, again, as long as it's the primary residence.
How do they handle new construction? I'm building a house. I buy a lot and then I want financing to build a house. How is that handled?
Yep. So a couple of different ways you can do that. You can go to, I don't know if you even have this, but Wisconsin Land Bank and say, hey, I want to buy this property for $100,000. So you finance that kind of separately. Then you get with a VA lender and say, hey, I want to build a home on this property. So they either roll that then into the total cost. So when the loan funds, you're paying off the land as well. Or right. If you find a piece of property that someone owns and you say, hey, I want to buy this land and put a house on it, and they agree to it, then you're doing the same thing. You're just rolling in the land and the house together. And then boom, the land is paid as soon as the loan funds. Now construction begins on the home. As far as like these kind of pre-planned communities where, a builder comes in, developer, and buys 5 acres and they're going to put 100 almost 5 acres. It's almost the exact same as if you were buying a pre-existing home in a way. Yeah. We go through the loan process. We get you underwritten, approved. The builder starts the construction. And then once we get closer to closing, we just kind of update everything, pay stubs, bank statements, that kind of stuff, close on the home, boom, you're good. So those are pretty simple.
Right.
So on a construction loan, they pay to draws, based on when certain phases of the project is completed, they pay out until the project's completed. They do the same thing with the VA. They phase the payment to the developer.
Yep. It's the exact same thing. So that loan will fund. Typically, it's kind of like a 45 closing because you're getting with your contractor or your builder. And these are more like the custom private builds where you're buying the land and then putting a home on it. So they go through the plans and specs, make sure everything's good to go, make sure again the builder is approved by the VA because they have to have a VA builder ID. They have to be kind of like certified with the VA to do a home. Our company kind of runs like a due diligence on this builder to make sure that once they get that first draw, they're not just going to take off, that they don't have any pending litigation or anything like that. But yeah, once that loan funds, then at that point, kind of our construction team basically takes over. And then the builder says, okay, cool. We need this amount of money to clear the land, lay the foundation, et cetera. They get their draw. And it's typically, I think, 4 to 5 draws maybe through the whole process, but they submit their draw, they get their money. And then, then at that point they're off and running.
Cool.
Hey, Chris, I'm sorry, Tom, is there a cutoff like from the time you process out and you have all your paperwork, like a VA loan? You have like 2 years, 3 years. Is there a cutoff date? Like you have to use your loan opportunity, or is it
not at all?
Okay. I just wanted to ask about that.
You can use it as many times as you want.
Mm-hmm.
So you can buy and sell a house every 3 years. You could upgrade to a bigger one. You could move to a new city. I mean, you can use your VA loan every single time. And also, oh man, literally just forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, there's no time requirements. Oh, but there are certain requirements when it comes to time and service. So if you're currently on active duty, you have to be in at least 90 days, and then you can use a VA loan.
Gotcha.
And then if you are a veteran, you had to have served at least 2 years on active duty before you're eligible to use your. So if you're out, you had to have served at least 2 years on active duty to use a VA home loan. Now it's a little, obviously, Thomas, you were in the reserves, a little different for the reserves than National Guard. Reserves typically always need 6 years of service. National Guard, kind of same 6 years, but if you've got time overseas on federal orders, you deployed to, let's say, Iraq or Afghanistan in the National Guard, typically that will count towards that active duty time. And now you got more eligibility for the Guard.
Great. Mark, anything else?
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sorry I jumped ahead, but I told people to give you a call and Benchmark Mortgage and also get plugged into Xena as well. Sorry, guys, I just jumped ahead, and I know Tom has it scrolling down there, but you've been very informative. I have to say, Chris, I wish I would have had you when I bought my first house. That's all I'm going to say, because I was being steered in a whole lot of different directions. And I will say locally, my wife and I this lender came in and they did a little story. He was a reporter, and he wanted to know what was going on with the VA loan, and it was pretty interesting. It made some good talk because people were teasing me, like,
Yeah.
hey, man, what are you doing? You're giving us a bad name, and all I told the guy, I just want to use what I earned. I did my 3 years. I just don't understand what's going on here. It's pretty simple. We checked all the boxes, but we kept getting like deferred to another path. I'm like, no, we want to use this. And yeah,
it's I equate it to like it's the same thing as telling a veteran, who did 4 years, honorably discharged, that kind of stuff, or however, don't use your GI Bill. Just go take out student loans like everybody else. It's that dumb to me. It's like, okay, no, you can get 4 years of college for free. And the cool thing with the post 9/11 GI Bill, you can do you could use it for medical school. You could have a $200,000 semester. Right. They'll pay it, so it's like, why in the world would you recommend a veteran go take student loans when they have the GI Bill? It's like, why would you expect them to go use a conventional or FHA when they have the VA loan?
Sure.
It's such a better loan.
Yep.
Zena made a comment. She's saying that's why it's important to use a lender who truly understands VA loans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where you come in and educating these people. That's the kind of neat thing about it.
Yeah. And it's if you know what you're doing, it's easy. It's so easy.
Well, I'm not buying any property in the near future.
Yeah,
so
sorry, but
well, if you know anybody that is.
No, definitely. I will.
Definitely. I've already referred you out to a couple of my colleagues that are real estate brokers as well. And I'll share some more resources for you here in Wisconsin that will be a great source for you to make contact with. It's the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce is a great resource. They're really active in supporting veterans here in the state of Wisconsin. So that's a great resource to look at as well. So
yeah, well, and I wouldn't mind coming up there and doing a class, because I found this amazing thing called Spotted Cow beer when I was up there for a Packers game. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is delicious.
Oh, Spotted Cow, yeah.
New Glarus Brewing. Oh man, so I kind of tease people I know that are from there. I'm like, when are you going to send me some? It's amazing.
Yeah, Spotted Cow. That you go into any bar in Wisconsin.
That's a beer that you have. Okay.
Yeah.
New Glarus Brewing Company.
Oh,
New
wow.
Glarus. Yeah.
Really
Spotted
good.
Cow.
Yeah,
it's
so
basically a heavy
vice
vice beer.
Wisconsin.
If you know anything about beers, it's a vice beer. So yeah, they make a great beer. Wisconsin's known for its beers. Right here down the road is Pabst Farms, which is the brewery is in downtown Milwaukee. So beer is a big deal. Alcohol is a big deal in Wisconsin. So
yeah. Well, and I was, not to go too long on the Wisconsin thing, but I was kind of blown away because we were up there in 2019 for a Packers game. My best friend's a Packers fan, and we're driving from Milwaukee to Green Bay, and they're doing the radio commercials and stuff. Like, oh, we got $5 pitchers of beer and pitchers of milk, and I was like, okay, I guess they serve pitchers of milk at bars. But then I'm like, hey, it's America's Dairyland. So it makes sense.
And now what the Brewers are doing, they got the cheesehead thing that they give the players when they hit a home run. So, it's all about beer, cheese, and dairy here in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I tell you what, you really threw a lot. We threw a lot of questions at you. Did a fantastic job.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing clarity on some of the issues that people should know about. But most importantly, I would recommend anybody that that's a veteran looking to get into the housing market, reach out to you. We've got all your contact information. Let me get that up here as well. Chris's email.
There you go.
And I think, Mark, you put something up too with the phone number, right?
Yes, I did.
See if I can find it.
480-351-5904. Make his phone jump off the hook. I don't think you mind, would you, Chris? Would you mind if people call you?
No, not at all. And that's my office number. So if for some reason I've got it forwarded to my cell phone, but I'm happy to share my cell phone here if anybody wants it as well.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, Chris, again, we're grateful to have you on today to help get the message out there about VA loans to to a community that's not using the benefits that they've earned. So we hope it'll be fruitful for you and fruitful for the veterans out there. So we just encourage everybody in our market that watch this, share with your friends and family, share it with real estate colleagues, and anybody that can benefit from your knowledge. So we want to support you for what you're doing to help the veterans, my friend. So
yeah, and thank you guys so much for having me on. Like I said, it's all about education and just getting the word out, and just kind of getting VA up there with conventional. And yeah, so thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Great. And again, I just want to thank all those that have jumped in, Eric and Zena and Eric Bam and Eric.
Kimberly was one of the first ones on here. Kimberly Stevens.
Yeah. She's new to the Grow Live Academy.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. All right. With that all said, my friend, we're going to put you in the green room. Enjoy the M&Ms that we provided you. You wanted blue, so we got your blue M&Ms. So enjoy them, and we'll be right back.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, veterans. They need a lot of support out there in more ways than just veteran loans, and we just want to make sure.
Yes, absolutely.
They're taken care of out there. So Chris did a fabulous job of just breaking down what a lot of people think is a complex process. And I feel comfortable if I was in that situation to give him a call and reach out to him and encourage anybody out there to share the good news with Chris and Benchmark. Anything else, my friend?
That's it, man. I think Chris, as they say, I will say it since I'm in Atlanta, he Aaron-tized it. He knocked it out of the park, and I didn't even ask him if he works in Georgia at all, but heck, I'd even recommend somebody here, get in touch with him since we've got his contact info. He's very knowledgeable. Like I said, Tom, it would have been really sweet to have a person like this when you transition from wearing a uniform and then into the civilian world to be in touch with a guy like Chris. I would highly recommend anybody that's getting ready to go through that process, give him a holler.
Yeah, so we had some pretty cool people on. Eric's a veteran as well.
Yes.
So thanks for being here, Eric, and Zena and everybody else. Share this out so we can support and help as many veterans as we can. So with that all said, Mark, do we have a guest next week?
I don't know if we do.
Okay.
I looked at my calendar and I think we are Aaron-tized. I like that, Mark. The old Hank Aaron joke. Yeah. I'm sorry, Eric. I say that. And yes, since I umpire and I live in Atlanta, he truly is the home run king. That's all I'm going to say. And I know there's others that they're perpetrating to be home run kings, but we won't get into how they got there.
Well, there you are, stirring it up again, Mark.
I know. Well, you got to, why not?
So with that all said, we'll close out with our corporate sponsor, ASEA. Mark and I are associated with ASEA, and you can't accumulate wealth without your health. So we encourage anybody out there that concerned about their personal health or somebody they love, investigate ASEA's redox signaling molecules. Anything you want to say on that, Mark?
I'll tell you what, like I said, I was a skeptic and got introduced to this through Tom, and I use it daily, religiously, and I notice things for me personally that it has helped me to do. Particularly when I get behind the home plate and put on the tools of ignorance and stand back there and call balls and strikes, when you're squatting down, getting back up, and your legs, thighs, back. Hey, it helps to have something like that, Yeah.
Well, that all said, great job, my friend. Have a great evening. Are you dancing tonight?
Oh, yes. I think we're finishing up on our two-step. So, yeah, we're implementing some new twists, turns, and you name it, we're doing it. So
Something we're going to have to do, Mark, because we keep bringing you up. You're dancing.
I know we're gonna have to get a video, right?
We're going to have to get a
I'll
video
probably
and play
get
a
one of my
video
class.
with you and Gina
Oh my God, that'll be
cutting up the
a
floor. Can't wait to see
Yeah.
that. So, and we'll blow out the audience when we get that one announced.
Oh yeah, that'd be.
All right. So let's wrap it up and close with our ASEA.
Absolutely.